We're going to take you to Washington because President Donald Trump is speaking at the National Prayer Breakfast. It's a high-profile Washington event for faith leaders, politicians and dignitaries. Let's join him now.
Can the liberties of a nation be secure when we have removed a conviction that these liberties are the gift of God? Among those freedoms is the right to worship according to our own beliefs. That is why I will get rid of and totally destroy the Johnson Amendment and allow our representatives of faith to speak freely and without fear of retribution. I will do that, remember. Freedom of religion is a sacred right, but it is also a right under threat all around us, and the world is under serious, serious threat in so many different ways, and I've never seen it so much and so openly as since I took the position of president. The world is in trouble, but we're going to straighten it out, okay? That's what I do. I fix things. We're going to straighten it out. Believe me, when you hear about the tough phone calls I'm having, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. They're tough. We have to be tough. It's time we're going to be a little tough, folks. We're taken advantage of by every nation in the world virtually. It's not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen anymore. We have seen unimaginable violence carried out in the name of religion. Acts of wanton slaughter against religious minorities, horrors on a scale that defy description. Terrorism is a fundamental threat to religious freedom. It must be stopped, and it will be stopped. It may not be pretty for a little while. It will be stopped. We have seen and by the way, General, as you know, James Mad Dog, shouldn't say it in this room, Mattis. Now, there's a reason they call him Mad Dog Mattis. Never lost a battle, always wins them, and always wins them fast. He's our new Secretary of Defense. We'll be working with Rex. He's right now in South Korea, going to Japan, going some other spots. I'll tell you what, I've gotten to know him really well. He's the real deal. We have somebody who's the real deal working for us, and that's what we need. So you watch. You just watch. Things will be different. We have seen peace-loving Muslims brutalized, victimized, murdered, and oppressed by ISIS killers. We have seen threats of extermination against the Jewish people. We have seen a campaign of ISIS and genocide against Christians where they cut off heads. Not since the Middle Ages have we seen that. We haven't seen that, the cutting off of heads. Now they cut off the heads. They drown people in steel cages. Haven't seen this. Nobody's seen this for many, many years. All nations have a moral obligation to speak out against such violence. All nations have a duty to work together to confront it, and to confront it viciously if we have to. So I want to express clearly today to the American people that my administration will do everything in its power to defend and protect religious liberty in our land. America must forever remain a tolerant society where all faiths are respected and where all of our citizens can feel safe and secure. We have to feel safe and secure. In recent days, we have begun to take necessary action to achieve that goal. Our nation has the most generous immigration system in the world. But these are those, and there are those, that would exploit that generosity to undermine the values that we hold so dear. We need security. There are those who would seek to enter our country for the purpose of spreading violence or oppressing other people based upon their faith or their lifestyle. Not right. We will not allow a beachhead of intolerance to spread in our nation. You look all over the world and you see what's happening. So in the coming days, we will develop a system to help ensure that those admitted into our country fully embrace our values of religious and personal liberty, and that they reject any form of oppression and discrimination. We want people to come into our nation, but we want people to love us and to love our values, not to hate us and to hate our values. We will be a safe country, we will be a free country, and we will be a country where all citizens can practice their beliefs without fear of hostility or fear of violence. America will flourish as long as our liberty, and in particular, our religious liberty, is allowed to flourish. America will succeed as long as our most vulnerable citizens, and we have some that are so vulnerable, have a path to success. And America will thrive as long as we continue to have faith in each other and faith in God. That faith in God has inspired men and women to sacrifice for the needy, to deploy to wars overseas, and to lock arms at home to ensure equal rights for every man, woman, and child in our land. It's that faith that sent the pilgrims across the oceans, the pioneers across the plains, and the young people all across America to chase their dreams. They are chasing their dreams. We are going to bring those dreams back. As long as we have God, we are never, ever alone. Whether it's the soldier on the night watch or the single parent on the night shift, God will always give us solace and strength and comfort we need to carry on and to keep carrying on. For us here in Washington, we must never, ever stop asking God for the wisdom to serve the public according to His will. That's why, thank you. That's why President Eisenhower and Senator Carlson had the wisdom to gather together 64 years ago to begin this truly great tradition. But that's not all they did together. Let me tell you the rest of the story. Just 1 year later, Senator Carlson was among the members of Congress to send to the President's desk a joint resolution that added "under God" to our Pledge of Allegiance. It's a great thing. Because that's what we are, and that is what we will always be, and that is what our people want. One beautiful nation under God. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
So, President Trump addressing the prayer breakfast meeting. Let's bring in our correspondent, Kim Khattas, who joins us from Washington, D.C. He doesn't just drop things, he's going to totally destroy the Johnson Amendment. Now, that's significant. Why?
Yes, that is a significant statement made there by the president. Not the first time that he references this Johnson Amendment of 1954, which was put in place to prohibit tax-exempt organizations from endorsing and or opposing politicians. And when you think of tax-exempt organizations, that involves not just, for example, charities and NGOs, but also churches and houses of faith. And that is something that the right in the United States would like to see happen, because they would like to see churches be able to lead politics and tell their congregations who to vote for example. There's a lot of opposition to that as well, and fears that this would, undo politics in the United States and turn churches and houses of faith into political machines. The reason why this amendment was put in place was to abide by the idea of separation of church and state, but it was also part of a deal made whereby churches or any house of faith would be exempt of taxes in exchange for being non-partisan. And those who want to repeal that amendment say that churches should be able to express their political opinions under the First Amendment, which is about freedom of speech. So that's going to be a big debate, but it's not the first time that we hear from Donald Trump that he would like to repeal that amendment. Of course, now he is the president, and it sounds like he wants to try to push this forward.
Something else he wants to change is the refugee resettlement deal with Australia. He says it's a dumb deal, and it led to the worst phone conversation by far of all his calls with world leaders, apparently, and he put the phone down on the Australian Prime Minister.
Those are the media reports here in the United States. Of course, the Australian Prime Minister was a little bit more, or he tried to downplay how much tension there was in that conversation. Diplomatic. He was trying to be a bit more diplomatic. You have to remember that no matter how unsettling it is to be on the receiving end of these presidential tweets or phone calls, America is still the biggest superpower. And whether it's allies or foes like Iran, people are going to try to downplay the tensions and tread very carefully going forward. And you heard there from President Trump explaining why he is being tough in those phone calls. And frankly, the question in Washington is why those conversations are being leaked from the White House. And I think that the explanation for both is the same, which is that he promised his supporters during the campaign last year, the presidential campaign, that he would be tough, including with allies. President Trump, as a candidate, always said that he thought America was not getting a fair deal in its agreements with allies, that it was being, in essence, taken to the cleaners, and that allies had to pay their fair share, had to carry more of the burden. And so he's come in now and is trying to do precisely that, to push back against all those agreements, whether it's trade agreements or the alliance with NATO or this deal with Australia on refugees. And that is going to go down very well with President Trump's supporters, not so well with America's allies, and certainly not so well with the foreign policy establishment here in the United States, but also foreign policy observers around the world. So in essence, we could say that Donald Trump is putting not only America's foes on notice, like he did with Iran, but also its allies.
Kim, thank you very much. Kim Khattas there in Washington.